I just can't let you go.
Last time on All Things Overlanding, we just made it through the first section of the Wyoming BDR and had stopped in Centennial to camp for the night. We found a 2-seater toilet. I rode a children's zip line and almost died. We saw a lot of wildlife, found some deep snow, and saw some amazing views. On this episode, we continue our journey on the Wyoming BDR from Centennial to Alcova. Let's go.
Sandstorm, I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me, loosening my grip.
After successfully completing the first section of the BDR, we all woke up to a beautiful sunrise. The views in Wyoming are really spectacular, and every day we saw something new and more beautiful than the day before. We got straight into breakfast, and Scott, who is our camp chef, did a fantastic job whipping up some delicious breakfast sandwiches. All right, so it is Section 2 of the Wyoming BDR, day 5 of the total trip, but day 2 on the BDR. We just rolled through Centennial, which is the nearest town. It's kind of the ending point for the first section of the Wyoming BDR. Cool little town. We stopped at a place called the Friendly Store. It's like a gas station and a little grocery store. They don't have a ton of stuff, but they have some pretty cool stuff. And the lady there was super knowledgeable, super nice. Told us about a big fire we went through yesterday through a giant, it sounded like it was like a 180-acre fire that happened a few years ago. Also, quick update on how the team is doing. So there are 4 of us total. There's Patrick, who is in the Subaru. Then generally following him is the Ford Ranger Tremor with the trailer, which is really cool. That's Scott. He was making breakfast for everyone this morning and really sliced his finger bad. So a little bit of help from us to hold the gauze and stuff for him. We were able to get it sort of bandaged up, but after about 3-4 hours it was still pouring blood. We just could not get it to stop. So he is on his way back out to Laramie to go to an urgent care to get some stitches to get that fixed, and then he's going to try and meet up with us later today on the trail. And then behind me is the big Moose, is what he calls his truck. So then that is Hunter from Rebel Outdoors and his wife Caitlin and their adorable baby Ivory, who I think was in some of my video from last night. But man, she's just so cute. Super well-behaved, cute little baby that has done great on this trip. I mean, hours and hours in the car, and she's just been a trooper. So anyway, so Hunter is back there, but he's also under the weather. So he's not feeling great either. He has said multiple times that he was sitting around the fire last night covered in blankets, shivering. So he has some sort of a bug or a cold or something, but he's soldiering on for right now too. But Patrick and I are the only 2 that are really actually about at 100%. So hopefully we'll be back to full strength by end of the day today, but we're going to keep driving. All right, guys, so we are on a pretty high up, 8,500, 9,000 feet above sea level elevation right now. And I mean, hundreds of feet drop off, thousands of feet drop off, probably to the bottom if you get past all the trees, but just extreme drop offs and stuff. And we were just talking about, how interesting, it's super fun to do these in your, these trails and these, backcountry discovery routes and stuff in your car. But we just came by a sign that said that this road that we're on right now is a wagon trail. So really makes you think about hundreds of years ago, people, doing this same thing, not with air conditioning, not with CarPlay, not with, all these amenities and a fridge and cooler and all that stuff, but walking on foot or riding in a wagon with a couple other people and hopefully enough supplies on your back or the ability to hunt and fish and get what you need to continue this journey, right? So just really interesting piece of history that this was, you know, a lot of this trail was used by wagons and stuff. So something to think about for sure. As we continued through Section 2 of the BDR, a recurring theme of wildly varied terrain changes came up. The longer we spent exploring Wyoming, the more varied and beautiful the terrain became. From flat, packed dirt roads, to twisty mountain passes, to beautiful pine forests, every bit was a visual treat. What we didn't realize was that we were about to run into some terrain that would totally stop us. So we just drove up maybe 10-ish miles on this Forest Service road, and we just came to this. This is the road. Patrick's walking it right now, but there's still, I mean, this snow right here is up to about my waist. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, this looks like I'm going to be going first on this one.
Yeah, you're going to have to push this down a little bit. I mean, it looks like it's mostly off the road. So like as long as we don't get up there and then it's all the way across the road, we should be able to do it. Should be fun. Yeah.
And then like
Maybe back up and just nudge. Yeah.
Like just push it.
Maybe that won't break down. I mean, we could shovel it. It's going to be some work, but... All right, guys, so you can see behind me here, there's big, huge, I mean, this is a ton of snow. So he just tried to put his 10,000 pound Ram 2500 across it, and you can see tire tracks. He just started to climb it. Then we've got a Subaru with a little bit of a lift, and then my, 2-inch lifted but stock tired Frontier. So we're thinking if we just take a little chunk out of the top here, maybe he can crush down through it and clear a path. So we're kind of hoping to punch the Ram through here, and then once we're through, then the rest of the vehicles can get through. So we'll see how it goes. So we started to dig our way through that last bank of snow. And then when we got up to this one, it didn't look too bad, but then once you actually go up on it, it continues another 40 feet or so that direction. So kind of feels like we might be able to drive up on it, but then if we fall through, then we're just going to be in hours of recovery. And then we flew the drone up ahead, and out in front of this, there's even more snow, even deeper snow, and even longer snow. So it seems like, if you're a bike, this may be passable, but for vehicles, it's kind of unpassable. And it's July 6th, so there's no better time to do it. But I think they had a pretty bad winter last winter and got quite a bit of snow. I mean, you can see it on the mountaintops. There's snow everywhere up here. So it's about 60 degrees. It's July 6th, and there are, 7-8 feet snowbanks that go for 50 feet. So it looks like we're going to have to turn around and go back. But it was a worthwhile endeavor. We tried. So we're going to have to find a bypass for this. Here's the thing about bypasses, though. Sometimes they're more fun than the original trail you plan to take.
Make me feel alive, don't feel crazy. Rain, make me smile, smile. I can't lie you one love. And I'm not saying lies, I feel crazy.
As we continued through section 2 of the BDR, the trail got rockier and more rough the further we went. Our vehicles were taking a beating, and this was only day 2. Eventually, we came across another group of overlanders going the opposite direction. This was the first time we'd seen anyone on 4 wheels in the last 2 days, and it gave us a chance to ask about the rest of the BDR. This other group had started at the top and worked their way south. They advised us to avoid the last couple of sections through the Bighorn Mountains because they had experienced 5 times the normal rainfall, and they said it was a mud pit. They mentioned that they had been stuck multiple times all the way up to their frames and had spent hours on recoveries. We said thanks and continued on. The end of section 2 runs through the town of Elk Mountain. We decided to take a side road up to the top of the mountain that lends its name to that town. At more than 11,150 feet, it was quite a sight, and the trail up and back down felt appropriately sketchy as well. So we're still on day 2 of being on the BDR, but we finished the second section. There were some challenging parts to it, just mainly a lot of bumpy stuff, really kind of uncomfortable roads to drive on, but not too bad. Not my favorite thing ever, but it was still cool. There was some rocky stuff you had to climb over, which was a lot of fun in the new truck. So we had started the third section of the BDR when we realized that we are really far from the next spot where there's going to be camping. So we had a little powwow. We could go 20 minutes back. So just FYI, if you are watching this video because you want to know about the BDR, you're thinking of running the BDR, section 2 ends in Elk Mountain. Elk Mountain itself is just a little teeny tiny town with almost nothing in it. Actually, the gas wasn't even in it. We had to go a few miles up to Highway 80 to fill up with gas. What's interesting is maybe 10 or 12 miles before Elk Mountain, there's camping. There's beautiful camping. Down along a creek, there's just dispersed stuff all along the road. So keep your eyes open. If you would rather stop before Elk Mountain, that's a good spot to stop. Or again, now we have started section 3. It was about 4:30 when we started this. It's looking like about 73 miles to the next sort of dispersed area. And that one, it sounds like it's going to be like a windy hilltop. So we'll see how that goes tonight. Might be a little bit windy, might not be the best campsite that we've had this whole trip, but it should be cool. I'm sure it's probably beautiful, and with the wind, hopefully that will take care of the bugs. So anyways, again, if you are running this and you get to the end of section 2, you might want to stop 10-15 miles before Elk Mountain and find some dispersed camping there, or you may want to continue on for a couple hours. Make sure you have enough time to continue on for a couple hours past Elk Mountain if you want to camp on section 3. Section 3 starts as mostly sagebrush-filled prairie. I guess there used to be a hotel and saloon here, so there are some like ruins back in here. Pretty cool. As we've come to expect of Wyoming, though, the terrain changes quickly, and it seems as if we're suddenly on another planet. It's not only the terrain that changes frequently, but also the weather. We had planned to spend the night camping out at elevation to lower the temps and make sleeping more comfortable, but as we approached, a massive storm was battering the mountain range that was our target. So we stopped short of the storm, quickly ate some dinner, and then continued up the mountain. As the sun started to set, we approached camp and ended up at one of our favorite campsites of the trip.
Devil in a red dress, call 911 on my killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang bang, got my hand on the trigger. The devil in a red dress, call 911 on my killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang bang, got my hand, call.
The next day we woke up refreshed and ready to finish out the rest of part 3 of the BDR. As the Prairie continued, some staples of Wyoming exposed themselves. If you're thinking of taking this trip, just know these few things. Gates. If you come across one and it's open, leave it open. If it's closed, go through it and then make sure to close it behind you. Cows. There are a lot of them, and they are in no rush to get out of your way. And then finally, antelopes. They're plentiful and they're fast. Really fast. Is he good?
Yeah, there's pocket back on.
Oh, changing the tire. So we're headed towards the end of section 3 of the BDR, and we just came across a car disabled on the side of the road. Looked like he needed a tire change. We stopped to see if we could help. We're getting ready to pull out now. Goes Patrick going around me. But so we just stopped to see if we could help, but he just about had the tire back on. So anyways, it seems like he's okay. So we're gonna keep hitting the road and keep going. It looks like maybe they're grading this road or something. So there is a big grader in front of us. So we are gonna go around him, I guess. And just see what we can figure out. There's also one coming towards us, so we probably ought to go pretty quick. Wink, wink. All right. So they're straightening out this road right now, it looks like. Once we finished section 3 of the BDR, we were back on pavement for a little while, and surprise, surprise, we were in for more terrain changes. We found ourselves looking at some beautiful lakes in the middle of this almost desert-like prairie. And suddenly we came across all of this red rock that was absolutely beautiful. When you're on a super long trip like this 2-week trip that we were taking, time tends to move differently. When you don't have responsibilities, things take less time, sometimes they take longer, and days can feel really long. So we decided to stop for a quick lunch at a little state park that we found. It was right on a lake and it was really beautiful, and it had some nice little picnic tables that we could sit at to eat. And after that, we headed towards section 4. Section 4 of the Wyoming BDR is a very, very remote section of this trail. It basically runs through the middle of another large prairie. You see mountains in the foreground ahead of you, but it seems like they just never move. You drive all day. I think we drove for 6 or 7 hours, and it didn't seem like we were really any closer to those mountains than when we started. However, while we were out here, there was actually some pretty fun wheeling, some off-camber stuff, some hills to climb, and we were basically riding on the ridge of a mountain the entire time, which was a ton of fun. And more than just the fun of driving it, was experiencing the sights. So we just had a bit of a fun time. I kept hearing a noise, and it sounded like one of my latches on my rooftop tent was loose or something, but then I'm looking in my mirror and I see the whole rack shift. And we just got out and checked, and like 3 or 4 of the 5 channel nuts that hold it to the stock rack in the bed of the Frontier were like loose or out. And we've been on some crazy trails, so like I'm not blaming the rack at all, and it could have been partly install or something, but I mean, like I had it at the Moore Expo, we looked it over, everything looked good, but these trails have just been rocky back and forth. I mean, the whole vehicle, just 3 days of just shifting back and forth. And so it seems that a couple of them have worked themselves out. So now we got a couple of them back in the channel and as tight as we could with some Allen wrenches. We're going to try and limp it out of here because we're about 20 miles out from town. I mean, we're in literally the middle of nowhere. So we're going to try and limp it out of the trail here, and then when we get to camp, hopefully somewhere near a town or something, we're going to try and get it back on all the way, but we'll see. So we got the rack attached as good as we could to limp it to our next campsite, which turned out to be on top of some of the most beautiful red rocks I've ever camped on in my life. And once we got up there, we checked out the rack. All right, so we just got to camp, and I'm going to try and sort out the self-disassembly of the extrusion rack. For the last like 2 days straight, we've gone through just tons and tons of like super aggressive, I mean, throwing the truck back and forth, bouncing around, all kinds of stuff, and it finally was just too much for the rack. It popped one of these out, and then another one was really loose, and then this whole entire side over here was pretty loose too, and you can see it eating into the top of the bed here. I actually noticed kind of like a clunking noise. I thought it was a rooftop tent latch at first, but then I was watching out my mirror and I actually saw the whole rack shift, and that's when I realized that the rack had come loose. So it does have an awning and a rooftop tent on it, so it's got a fair amount of weight on it too. But yeah, this stuff we've been on has been super ultra aggressive. So we did manage to, on the trail, get the back one and the middle one reattached thanks to Hunter there, Rebel Outdoors. And then that one back there is kind of on, and this one here is kind of on, like just on the bottom part of the lip. So I just took off these 2 bolts. I'm going to try and realign this stuff, get these back on there, and then hopefully we'll be good to go. So after digging into it, we figured out that I don't believe that all the channel nuts were locked in when I first installed the rack, and that's what slowly caused them to fail one by one until most of them were loose, and we noticed that the rack was actually coming loose. We got everything tightened back down, and everything's been great ever since. Now, it was kind of funny. We were at this beautiful Red Rock camp, and there were cows on top of this cliff, and they seemed super comfortable. But we sat down, we ate a nice meal, and we enjoyed this beautiful campsite to end part 4 of the BDR.
I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only.
Next time on part 3 of the All Things Overlanding Wyoming BDR trip, stay tuned to see the exciting conclusion to this epic 2-week expedition through Wyoming. Things like some of the most beautiful cliffs I've ever filmed, an actual ghost town, one of the best burgers I've ever eaten in my life, and how to make Hunter's truck regurgitate. Plus, much, much more. If you're not already, make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any of the action. It is hailing.